Is there going to be any more resolution in the public for the Nimitz incident?
I know that the Navy had completed their investigation and shared it with Arrow. It hasn't gone public yet. We continue to investigate that case. The challenge we had, that happened back in 2004,
Yeah.
and that was before there was guidance from the Department of Defense to the operational forces to report and retain data. However, at the time of the Nimitz workup, so the Nimitz was in an exercise, and they were being assessed for their readiness to deploy to the Gulf during, the Operation Iraqi Freedom, I believe it
Hmm.
was. Um, Third Fleet had a flag plot. They were on board. They understood that there were some unusual things being detected by the Spy One radar on the Princeton. And they actually directed that the radar tapes be preserved. They actually sent people to the Princeton
Okay.
to get recordings of what the Princeton had detected. We do know that that data made it back to Third Fleet headquarters in San Diego. They did not have the technical ability to exploit that, so they had to go to Dahlgren, Virginia, is where the lab was. So we know it physically went back to Dahlgren. Working with the Navy and the OPNAV staff, we did two physical searches trying to find that data. We could not find that
Hmm.
data. And it was somewhat of a challenge because it happened 20 years before. Um, Another thing that was curious, not sure if it was intentional or just incompetence, but the flight journals, the logs, the operational, journals that are maintained by warships, that normally goes into the archives. And we went back trying to find, the records of what happened during that workup so we could attempt to correlate, some of the witness statements. We could not find those journals. And we could not find them. The Navy could not find them, and that's in in a report that will eventually become public. We also found out it was very, very curious how this happened. But one of our officers on the Aero staff was at a cocktail party in Old Town Alexander and ran into the former director of DARPA. And they started talking about working at Arrow. And he had mentioned that he had been out there during that Nimitz workup, and DARPA was working with the Navy. Not everybody was vetted, but they had a new lightweight ISR system that battle group was going to use during its deployment. There was a report from the Navy chief who had worked in the Combat Information Center on the Princeton CIC that reported about this mysterious helicopter with people dressed in black who had gone out to the Princeton, had gone into the captain's stateroom, which is very unusual on a warship underway, and then departed with a bunch of materials.
Right. So you think that's related to the ISR system, like because it
Well,
was a
that's what we found out when we actually talked to this executive from DARPA. That was actually them. That was actually DARPA personnel that actually gone out there, and some of them were wearing, black jumpsuits, and
yeah.
that's what the crew observed according to the testimony that we received.
That's
And then
fascinating.
what we were trying to do is get the flight journal, the log of who landed at when, the tail number of the aircraft, so we could validate that report that we had received from the witness. And we were unable to find that journal to be able to validate that claim. But we did look into the nature. I believe it was a WASP was the ISR system, and it's come out. It's public now, but I believe um, the Princeton may have detected that with its sensor at Spy One radar. We do not believe the F-18s at high altitude would have been able to detect it due to the clutter and the fact that it operated right at the wave tops.
Right.
But a lot of the reports that occurred out there, and we believe them. Are we ever going to have the data to understand what happened? Not after 20 years. Now,